Hi, everybody. Welcome to Reserve Seating. I'm very, very excited because the mailbag is full and we got what's the name of it? What's the thing that they call a
Murderers Row?
murderer's row, a murderer's row of
I did not.
contributors. So we have Mike Pomaro joining us. How you doing, Mike?
Great. Hi, everybody.
And we have Patrick. How you doing, buddy?
Think when you have four guys talking movies on a YouTube channel, that's called a mailbag.
Reserve CD stars right now.
So, without further ado, let's dive into the mailbag. Our first question is from Miko.
Hey,
Uh,
Miko.
Hi, Miko. And he asks, I'm rewatching Mission Impossible 3. In the brief scene where Philip Seymour Hoffman plays Tom Cruise disguised as Philip Seymour Hoffman is fun. Do you have favorite movies or scenes where an actor gets to play another actor's character, be it disguises or body swaps, etc.? So why don't we start with Patrick? What do you think, bud? Oh my God, I know what that means.
I wrote it down.
It's the no-brainer answer,
Yeah,
but of course it's Face Off,
face
just to
off.
see my favorite actor play Adam's favorite actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Mike?
It's funny. I posed this question to my wife, Christy. I was like, "What do you think?" She's like, "Face Off." I was like, "Patrick's not Face Off." I'm gonna have to think of another one. I honestly, and I might. I have a feeling I'm gonna get not pushback, but the first thing, honestly, that popped into my head was um, Jack Black in the new Jumanji
Mm.
movies.
Okay.
And I think what I'm doing is kind of echoing my family's reaction when we went to go see Jumanji. What's the first one of his
Welcome to the
Jumanji?
jungle.
His
And
Welcome to the
then
Jungle.
there was
Okay,
the next level
I
after
would.
that.
I was definitely in my head. I said Jumanji, Enter the Dragon.
I've only seen it once, so maybe this is an embarrassing answer, and I would look back and it's actually really offensive performance. But I remember thinking at that time that it was a sweet performance, that it could have gone in a lot of ways, maybe inappropriate ways, but it was a performance that, like, I went with my wife and two daughters, and like immediately when we left, they singled that out as their favorite performance and their
Hmm.
favorite part of the movie. And I just remember also just feeling like it was sweet.
So I have a couple. I obviously face off was the first thing I wrote down. I was thinking about just recent movies that do this, and it's not a movie I really like, and I don't think the performances are all that great. But did you guys see It's What's Inside? Where the whole
No.
idea is that they're at a party basically and they all body swap. I don't think the characters are well defined enough for the movie to really work, but I like what they were trying to do in that one. Then I wrote down actually two examples from TV, which I don't know if that's fair, but like I the two that stick out to me the most. One was a really good recent episode of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, in which T'Pring and Spock switch bodies. Both actors do a really nice job of that. But my all-time favorite one that I still quote all the time, is Elijah Dushku playing Sarah Michelle Gellar, playing Buffy Summers in the season 3 two-parter Buffy the Vampire Slayer, This Year's Girl, and Who Are You, which has one of my favorite quotes that I still quote all the time, which is Faith as Buffy. When somebody asks her about why she does things the way she does, I think about this with myself all the time. She says, "Because I'm a stuck-up tight ass with no sense of fun," and I think that about myself all the time.
I had two. So I don't know why this one came to mind first. Like you would think Face Off would come to mind first, but mine was Judge Reinhold playing Fred Savage, playing Judge Reinhold, and vice versa, which I think is kind of incredible. And also another body swap. I think Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan playing each other in the Freaky Friday remake was really well done too.
All right, so next question is from Monkey. Hey Monkey, it says, what is your biggest whiplash that you ever experienced on a rewatch? What movies went from favorites to never watches, and what films did you hate or were disappointed in that on second viewing you realized were actually great films? Um, should we go Michael first this time? Mike?
Sure. There's a bunch of movies that I've done 180s But the ones that come to mind are Hellboy 2, that I on an F This Movie podcast listed as one of the worst comic book movies ever. Done a complete 180 on that one. I think that movie's pretty great and superior to the first one. My bad. Also, Reservoir Dogs. I saw that before Pulp Fiction. That was not a movie I disliked. It was a movie I just was not ready for.
Right.
I didn't. It just. I'll never forget like watching it with Thos and another friend at a sleepover. I'll never forget the next morning my mom asking me what I thought of it, and I was like, yeah, it's good, but I don't know. I don't understand why some decisions were made. It felt even in the moment like this is above my head. I just wasn't ready. And then so like Patrick has described Reservoir Dogs being a pretty monumental moment, right, Patrick? Like,
Yeah.
kind of a change your DNA moment. That was Pulp Fiction for me. So after Pulp Fiction, revisited Reservoir Dogs and got it for one. But those are the two that stick out.
I don't have many movies that I liked and then rewatched and really didn't like. I do often go the other way though, where I didn't like something and then I have this, philosophy of never giving up on a movie, and so I rewatch a lot of stuff that I didn't like, and a lot of times I'll like it a lot more the next time around. This podcast is more or less founded on me changing my opinion on Avatar, so I'll just say Avatar.
So I had two that went from movies I loved to movies I had some problems with. Alien Romulus is probably the most recent example. Like Patrick, I know you and Rob were not fans of it, and I felt like a crazy person because I like had a transformative alien experience with it. And then I just had to be honest with myself when I was watching it the second time. I'm like, it's just Spaney. I just like Spaney.
You got Spinny,
Um,
which is fine.
that is the pull. The Dolby Cinema Spaney almost got that movie into my top 10. Another one is Jurassic World. I've had like a real back and forth relationship with the original Jurassic. I shouldn't have said the original Jurassic World, with Jurassic World. The two that went from I don't get it at all to movies I love are The Matrix, which I just didn't expect to be as
Hmm.
smart and heady as it was, and I kind of just wasn't prepared to think that much on, the night that I saw it the first time in theaters. And then when I rewatched it, I got it. And then the second was Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, because that was still when I think, and I mean this affectionately, it's kind of like the mainstream moviegoer geek curve was just starting again, and I was like, I don't know, I don't understand these words that they're saying. There's too many characters. What are all these lands? Like from the beginning, Kate Blanchett expedition or exposition. There it is. I was like, what are you saying? Dole this out to me slowly, but obviously it's a fantastic movie.
So I'll go one in either direction. I'll start with the more negative one first. Actually, you can hear me go through this in real time if you listen to my and Patrick's recent podcast. You know where I'm going with this on Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, a movie that was monumental to me as a young person. And on this rewatch, again, you could just listen to the podcast. I was just like, just doesn't work. The movie just doesn't work for me anymore. It just doesn't. It just I still love Hunter Thompson. All those books are right there. I still love Hunter Thompson. I still like Terry Gilliam movies for the most part, but that movie just doesn't. It just doesn't work for me anymore. And that's okay because movies can be important to you in one point in your life, and then you grow out of them. But then to end on a positive note, I will say again, the curse of this website being that you can go back and look at all the evidence. So you can go back and look at the receipts is Jordan Peele's more recent stuff, Us and Nope, movies that I was very lukewarm on the first viewing. You can read my Nope review, and it's like mixed positive, like kind of, because I was just not with the movie yet. Obviously, I've rewatched that movie and found so much more layers to it and what's been going on. I think it was that thing where Get Out was such a perfect screenplay, and the way I am, my stupid brain, I'm like, okay, well, just do that every time. Just write a perfect screenplay every time. And instead of letting him mature and grow and change and experiment and use his cachet as sort of this new voice of the sort of Twilight Zone-y thriller kind of thing, both Us and Nope I think are very sloppy, but there's so much in them that they're just so captivating. So came around hardcore, especially Nope on both of those.
Our next question comes from our very own Rosalie. We've had lots of papal content lately, from Conclave to the Young Pope to the Two Popes to the Pope's Exorcist to the Pope's Exorcist bodyguard. Who should be cast in the inevitable movie version of the Chicago Pope? So, Rob, being the out-of-towner of the
Oh,
bunch.
no, no, no. I sit this one out. This is you guys.
All right. Wow.
This is
Okay.
firmly Chicago. Because I would just say, I don't know, Russell Crowe, he should be the Pope. Why not? But he's already the Pope's exorcist, so I can't do
Yeah.
that. I am a Roman Catholic, but I am also not of Chicago, so I cannot. I'm just gonna politely sit here and listen.
I'll go first because my answer is dumb. I chose someone who has passed away and is not from Chicago, but I
So like a CGI performance.
sure.
Peter
Um,
Cushing.
Yeah.
no, I thought, and Patrick, Erica made me feel better about this. Every time I watch, let's say Jackie Brown, I'm convinced Robert Forster's from Chicago.
Sure.
Every time I look it up because I swear he has a Chicago accent.
He does.
Right? We were just watching something at your house, and Erica. So I've never expressed that out loud because I'm like, every time I look it up, and I'm like, well, he's not from Chicago, so I'm dumb. But Erica pointed it out as well. So honestly, when I think of Chicago accents, I think of Robert Forster, and who wouldn't want to see him play
Yeah.
anything, let alone a
Oh,
Pope?
yeah.
That's a great choice.
Oh, that's better than my choice. My choice is Svengoolie.
I'm gonna go with Gary Sinise. I read a People magazine article recently that tugged my heart. I wish him and his family the best. But it also talked about him and his relationship with his Catholic faith, and he's got Chicago roots from like his Steppenwolf work and everything like that. So I thought Gary Sinise would be a good choice.
All right. Next question comes from our friend Louis. What's going on, Louis? This year, Steven Soderbergh released Presence and Body Bag, which I still have not seen, the second one. I'm waiting for that rental price to come down, and I don't have Peacock, but I will see it. I want to. Two very different yet distinctly Soderbergh movies. What are your favorite movies by filmmakers released in the same year or within a very short period of time? For example, Spielberg's 93 double of Jurassic Park and Schindler's List.
So I had two, but I don't want to steal anybody, so I'll just say one, and then if we don't say the other one, I'll come back around. I'll go Oliver Stone, 1991, The Doors, and JFK. Two very different movies, kind of similar though in like it's, fever dream reality, and they're so huge as texts, then I just can't believe somebody made that in the same year.
That's a good one.
I watched them all as one movie, and Jim Morrison was all like, I'm the Lizard King. We are through the looking glass.
My answer is 1974. Francis Ford Coppola gave us The Conversation and The Godfather Part 2.
Mhm.
Two very different movies, both masterpieces.
As great as those movies are, I got that beat because in 1986, Tobe Hooper made Invaders from Mars and The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2.
There you go.
So suck on that, The Conversation.
All right, so I'm going to throw out one. I have two as well, Adam. I'm going to throw out one other one. The Spielberg one is the big one, obviously, but I'm actually going to go with the other Spielberg one, or one of the other Spielberg ones, which is Minority Report and Catch Me If You Can in '02.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I have what I think is of if you ask me like objectively what I think is like maybe not my personal list, but like should be up there. Mel Brooks, also 74, Blazing Saddles, and Young Frankenstein, which are probably his two best movies in the same year. That's significant.
I still think Aaron Brockovich Traffic is pretty great. I know those movies aren't as popular as they probably once were, but I think that's pretty good too.
Weirdly enough, in what was that, 2000? I was like
Mhm.
all in on Traffic, and I was like, well, Aaron Brockovich is the crowd pleaser. And then with Distance, I'm like, I never need to see Traffic again, but Aaron Brockovich rules.
Okay, our next question comes from Chris. The Academy Museum is going to be screening Life Force as part of its Summer of Camp series in August, alongside movies like the Brady Bunch movie, Batman and Robin, Reefer Madness, and Frankenhooker. Do you think Life Force belongs in the collection as a camp movie, and is camp always unintentional? So I think we got to start with Patrick on
Yeah,
this
I
one.
mean, this is
I
just.
don't think camp is always unintentional.
Oh,
I think, and I've said this many times, anytime anybody's let me talk about Life Force, Life Force is the movie that Toby Hooper was trying to make. He didn't mess up the tone of that movie. He didn't accidentally make something ridiculous and operatic. That's what he was going for. So we can certainly remove ourselves from it and choose to look at it ironically, but that's not exactly what camp is. I can't quite pin down what camp is. As you read that list of titles, Adam, I was like, all of those belong in different categories. Like,
right.
Mhm.
Batman and Robin is kind of intentional camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reefer
Yeah.
Madness isn't. Brady Bunch is a comedy. Life Force is this separate beast. You guys weigh in. I don't know.
I don't know. The best I can describe camp, maybe in terms of how I see it as an audience member, is does it solicit my reaction like in a crowd with a bunch of people, like in the sense that like I feel like I need to react so that everybody can hear me react to it. And I don't know, I think like I when I think camp, sometimes I think of John Waters, I think of David Lynch even sometimes as some of the elements in his movies are campy. I don't see that as like a negative or anything like that, but I definitely don't think that those two filmmakers are unintentionally doing what they're meaning to do. Life Force, I guess if you're thinking of it as camp, it's just like you're gonna get a reaction from an audience of hundreds of people to a naked woman walking around a movie for the whole movie. But then you have to say like Species is camp or like Showgirls is camp, Basic Instincts camp. Like it
My
really
reaction to all those movies is the same. Boy, yoing, yoing, yoing.
Yeah, I would just echo what you guys were saying. I had a hard time kind of defining
don't do the
camp.
glasses thing ever again.
Adam, I just saw the same thing. When I think of camp, I think of John Waters and
Yeah.
those kind of movies. I think those are intentional. I think they can be intentional and unintentional. And
Mhm.
I never thought of Life Force as camp, but
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
to
Doesn't
me,
it just mean that you have to eat poo in the movie? I love that scene in Batman and Robin where they
where he eats the
where
poop.
they where they eat the poo.
Well, that's the Eggman and Batman and Robin.
This poo is cold.
To me, camp is just theatricality. It's just intentional theatric. It's shouting to the back row. I think it's always, whether or not it's always intentional. I think it's always better when it is. It's better when a filmmaker has full grasp of what they're doing, like John Waters, as you said, where it's like we're doing this on purpose. Joel Schumacher, another great example, where it's like he's perfectly aware of what he's doing. He wants this thing to be gaudy and tacky and loud, and that's what it's supposed to be.
If there was a Life Force camp, I would go there.
I also think it depends on like where we are in the artist's filmography with the movie. So like if it's at the beginning, like Ernest goes to camp, that's telling you that the rest of it's going to be camp.
Hmm.
All right, last question from Matt Namode. What's your favorite summer movie season of the 90s? What was your favorite movie of that summer? Are there any movies from it that you didn't love back then but have grown on you since? I feel like this is a question tailor made for the F This Movie audience. So, Patrick, I think it's your turn.
I Here's where I'll come clean. I didn't actually look back at any movie summers to answer this question. I was like, the one that immediately jumped out to me was 95, and I don't even know if that's 100% accurate, but like, I apologize to Adam, and he should have answered this because in 95 I saw Waterworld and I was like, that was fine. That wasn't as bad as the press it's getting. And now I flat out love Waterworld. It's like a favorite from that summer. There may have been better movies that came out in the summer of 95, but Waterworld is the one that jumps to mind.
I could have picked probably a number of summers in the 90s, but 93, the
Mm.
Jurassic Park Fugitive summer was very big for me. That was the first, like, I remember that being, I was 14, right? No, yeah, 14 that summer. And I just remember like spending our Thos and I would spend our summer at a movie theater, and Jurassic Park being one of those movies that I just saw over and over again. And yeah, and those are two movies that I love today.
I'll just go. For me, 97 is the one that stood out to me the most. That might just be a product of just where I was at, but like Men in Black, The Lost World, which I know is not great, but at the time I was a Jurassic Park loving kid, so it was Jurassic Park 2, so I was excited. Air Force One, Face Off, Batman and Robin, Con Air, Fifth Element, Austin Powers, Liar Liar, Event Horizon. That was like
Yeah.
the summer where like I'm like at the bridge of like kid and adolescent. So like there's the sort of Men in Black, Batman and Robin of it all, but then there's the Con Air, Event Horizon where I'm like starting to like discover other stuff too. Like my dad would actually like let me like bring me those and stuff like that. And then Air Force One was one of my like grandfather's study movies where I would go to my grandfather's house and rent movies off of his shelf and just watch it by myself all the time. I mean, it was later, obviously, after it was on VHS, but thinking back at the movies of that era. Um,
Era.
and then I just if we're picking one from that summer for me, it would be Men in Black. I think Men in Black's a perfect movie, and just
Here.
yeah, that would be one for me.
So I had 95, my backup was 93, so I'm gonna go 91. I think it's also another fantastic movie summer. Terminator 2 is probably my favorite, although it's kind of become like my head says Terminator 2, my heart says Point Break type of thing. It's like there's no wrong answer, I think, between the two of them. And I have a real weird answer for his third question, where it's like, are there any movies that you didn't love back then but have grown on you? I'm not saying I loved this, but the last time I saw Child's Play 3 was in a theater and it played really well. So I think I kind of like Child's Play 3 now. Sorry.
No.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Patrick, for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you, everybody, for sending in your questions.
These are good
These were
questions.
really fun.
Yeah.
We're going to be back next week with the same title showdown and special guest Leo Brady. The Hunted 1995 with Christopher Lambert versus The Hunted 2003, directed by William Friedkin with Tommy Lee Jones and Benicio del Toro.
Patrick, if Christopher Lambert were talking to William Friedkin about Blu-rays, what would that sound like?
It is me, Christopher Lambert. What do you have on Blu-ray? It's almost as good as my Jim Morrison.
I thought you were doing Jim Morrison. Until next time,
The mailbag is empty.
fill it
Little curveball.
later. Not right now.
All right, now. Next month.
Not right now.
Anyway.
Child's Play 3.
Joss Bender.
French title, Child's Play 3.